Hello. This is Phil from Coping with Donald. I'm Phil, and this is Coping with Donald. Let's try it that way. It's Friday night, July 4th, 2025. And unfortunately, we have some things to discuss because there will always be things to discuss. The big, beautiful bill has passed, and I'm not going to spend that much time on it, believe it or not. There are plenty of outlets where you can get your information on this bill from either the left or the right. But I think that any reasonable person would look at this bill and say it really doesn't do anything for regular people. The only people that would be happy about this bill are people that get jobs at ICE and the very rich. And it's true that people are going to lose Medicaid. Basically, well, anyway, a lot of people are going to lose Medicaid, and that's going to be a problem. It's delayed time-wise, so a lot of this won't take effect until around the elections or just after. So if the Democrats get elected in the House, everybody's going to say the Democrats took away their Medicaid, but it's in this bill. There's also a lot of food stamps being taken away, and probably with that, school lunches. Now, I was listening to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump said in the speech, "Don't believe anything a Democrat says or any liberal. They're lying. Everything they say about this bill is going to be a lie." Boy, what a self-show that is, huh? Because, I mean, really, with Donald Trump, don't you have to, check 5 different sources? And then you usually find out he's lying anyway. And for him to come out and say that everything that every Democrat says it's going to be a lie is kind of sad. It reminds me of when, about 20 years ago, I was going to this church, and it was a very modern Christian church. It was one of those churches where they try to lure the kids in by getting them involved in music and stuff. And anyway, I've always found those kind of churches kind of iffy. And I remember one of the pastors saying on a Sunday, he said, "Don't socialize with anybody who is not from this church. They don't want you to hear any ideas about anything else except what they're feeding you." Look, I'm a liberal Democrat, but I mean, I'm not going to tell you to only talk to liberal Democrats. If you want to talk to MAGA, go talk to MAGA. You can listen to MAGA. You can converse with MAGA, whatever you want to do. I choose not to. Getting to the point where I think that MAGA is really, MAGA are bad people. The amount of pain and suffering that they're going to be causing and that they've already caused is atrocious. And kind of, it exhibits the worst of us. Everybody talks about how good Americans are. We're not good. We really are not good. Okay? And generous and all that. No, we're not. So anyway, that reminds me of my church days, and just terrible that Trump makes me think that way. Trump has decided to send 200 Marines into Florida, into Miami-Dade County. I would suppose that they are going to assist ICE in rounding up Cubans, etc., etc. Now, what upsets me again is that these are people who, even though they're not my favorite people, okay, a year ago, they had permission to stay here. The same people. And that goes with the Venezuelans, too. They had protective status. And a lot of them are trying to get their residency. And like I said, I'm not that big on the Cubans because they throw other Latinos under the bus. They think that they're whiter in skin color and therefore better people. Okay with that. And what's going to happen is people that were allowed to stay a year ago are now going to be rounded up by Marines and sent to God knows where, and who knows what's happening in many of those places. You can hear the fireworks behind me. Isn't it strange today? To me, it's not Independence Day. It's just July 4th. As I said in the last video, I feel like a French person after the German Nazis took over France. I'm waiting for the Allies to save us. No one's going to come to save us, guys. All right. So, what bothers me is that these people had a right to stay here a year ago, and now we decide no, and we're going to send Marines to round you up. God knows how they're going to treat you while they're rounding you up. And it's going to be ugly, and they want to get us used to the military being used against people in the country. This is going to be the first taste of it, so that later on, when the military Marines are used to round up politicians, Democrats, Republicans, people that think Trump has ugly ties or anything, we're going to be a little more accepting of it, immune to it, because we've seen it before. This is a big step backwards in the America that I knew. And again, I want to say something that this, I know it's going to make me look selfish, and I don't mean it to. I saved a lot from my retirement. I heard Trump come out and assault Jerome Powell again and all this. He wants the interest rates lowered at least 2%, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So I did what everybody said. I went my whole life working like a dog and providing for the people I really had to provide for and wanted to provide for, and didn't do anything for myself. Most of the time, I did not do anything for myself. I had big dreams, but I've still managed to save enough money that it's a big help to me to get the 4% that I've been getting for the last couple of years. Now, when Donald Trump lowers the interest rates, I'm not going to get 4% anymore, and that's going to hurt. I count on that money. But I could see it if it was for the right reasons. The right reasons would be inflation's under control, and we want to pep up the economy so that more people have jobs. Now, does that help me? No. I mean, well, inflation being low helps everybody, but that would be the reason to do it. Trump doesn't want to do it for that reason. Trump wants to do it just to pep up the economy. And then when inflation goes up, he'll just lie about it and say it's not going up, because that's what he does. Supposedly, there's actually some changes that have been made to some of our government statistics that make it look like more people are being employed than actually are. I haven't researched that. That's something that's flying around. That could be the liberal equivalent of they're eating the cats and dogs, right? But the employment numbers aren't that bad. Not really. I mean, 144,000 jobs added isn't great, but it's not pathetic. And inflation is creeping up a little, and those tariffs are going to kick in. All right, Trump says he came to an agreement with Vietnam. All right, let's talk about that. He came to an agreement with Vietnam. We're going to have 20% tariffs on items coming in from Vietnam. A lot of our clothes come in from Vietnam, okay? So get ready to pay more for that. And Vietnam's going to have 0% taxes on most American goods, including food. And the article specified that the Trump administration is going to be very happy to have this new market to send our food to. But we can't afford the food here. But they're going to be able to afford the food in Vietnam? We can't afford the food here. And that's why our produce comes up from other countries like Mexico. But Vietnam can afford it. And even if they could, wouldn't it be better to keep that food here and thereby lower the cost of food for Americans who have been complaining, especially MAGA people, for years about inflation on food? Oh, the grocery store. You know, Trump talking about groceries. I was thinking they wouldn't. If his mind is blown by the word groceries, can you imagine what he would do with cutlery? I thought they were knives and forks. All right? And it's cutlery. What a word. Cutlery. I like it as much as groceries. So, let's see. I'd rather we keep our food here rather than find new markets somewhere else. We need our food prices lowered here. Anyhow, I guess there is a counter argument to this. That if the farmers do better by selling products overseas at a lower price, I'm going to guess, because I can't imagine Vietnamese people paying, you know, $10 for 5 grapefruit. And I live in Florida. I guess maybe they could say, well, the farmers would do so well. They'd know they have a market for all their produce, and they would be able to lower the price here because they're going to get more money. I don't know. I find it hard to believe. Anyway, so that's Trump's deal. Yay, America. We're going to pay more for stuff that we bring in from Vietnam, and we're going to ship our food out to Vietnam while keeping the prices higher for you. We made a deal. Told you we'd make deals. I always make deals. What did you get out of the deal? I'm not talking to Trump. I'm talking to you, American people. So anyway, inflation will be going up a little bit. And to combat inflation going up, we should keep rates right where they are. However, Trump doesn't care about that. Trump thinks, in error by the way, that all he has to do is reduce the Fed fund rate through Jerome Powell down a couple of percent, mortgages will be cheaper, blah, 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 blah. But Trump also thinks that the amount of interest the U.S. pays out on U.S. treasuries is going to come down. And I would argue with that. The big beautiful bill is going to be adding trillions to the debt. That makes our bonds less desirable. That means to get China and Japan and whoever else who's going to loan us the money for those trillions of dollars. These debts that are coming due now that have to be refunded, they're going to say, well, I think you're less likely to pay off the debt. I think there's more risk. I don't care what Jerome Powell says and whatever he sets for the Fed rate overnight. I'm not going to buy your bond unless I can get 1.5% more than what I was getting. Trump doesn't think that can happen. Bonds and Fed interest rates, oh, no, I'm sorry, not Fed interest rates. The interest on the federal debt is set by a free market of people who don't put America first, and I don't even think Trump does, but that's another story, and they want to get as much money as possible, or they'll just buy bonds from other countries that they consider more stable. Because we're not looking very stable, folks. So, that's what makes me angry about it. Hey, you give us a better economy, people are doing better, we make progress on the deficit, we start helping people in need. I'm happy to sacrifice money on my savings, on the interest. But don't do it for your nefarious ends, made up, under some sort of fallacy idea in his mind that your own pal, lowering interest rates, will lower the interest on the federal debt. Because it won't. You can't make China come in and say, well, we're going to make you take this bond and we're going to make you take it at a lower interest rate. China will say, well, bye, Charlie. You know? So long, man. Oh, that was the Star-Kissed tuna. Sorry, Charlie. That was it. Wasn't bye, Charlie. Anyway. That's what one of the things that frustrates me to no end about Trump. How he doesn't know this. And he's not going to know it. Because, I mean, he's not learning anything. If you hear him talking about cancer with the windmills, he hasn't learned a thing about it, okay? He still thinks that windmills are power generator fans, wind turbines. Okay? So he's definitely beyond the point where he could learn something like that. Which is why, by the way, that if you do have money that you want to try to get a little bit of a higher interest rate with, and this would be paid as a CD. It's not guaranteed, but it's paid like that. You go a month, you get the interest. You go another month, you get the interest. And that would be funds of government bonds. Okay? They keep their value at $1 per unit. And whatever they make over that month by buying these bonds, they pass on to the people that own the funds. I have one through Schwab. I think it's SNSXX, something like that. Schwab has a lot of different types of funds like that. And I think they will be paying higher interest than other bonds that would be affected by Trump forcing the interest rates lower. I would talk about the US dollar dropping constantly, which is killing me right now, but that's for another time. Have a good night, and pray that people see the light and start voting for people that actually aren't out to hurt them. Good night.